The foundation of this classification is a generalization of the essential common elements in the psychic life of all the criminals under observation. From the beginning, and for many reasons, I adopted towards it a position not merely very skeptical, but positively hostile. In spite of all my critical resistance, however, it grew up organically out of my accumulated experience among these criminals, until finally I could no longer doubt its correctness. Briefly stated, the generalization is that the determining factor in all crime is weakness. Of course, I do not mean by this the obvious fact that murderers, like all other criminals, with infinitesimally few and insignificant exceptions, are abnormal from the point of view of social ethics, a fact which it requires no reflections of criminal psychology to establish, since it follows from the conception of crime as an act injurious to society. Still less do I refer to the fact that murders are frequently associated with economic crimes under conditions in which the incapacity of the criminal to procure the means of subsistence by honest, productive work would appear to be the cause of the crime. This type of murder is in fact much rarer than is commonly supposed, and the real cause is not merely the incapacity of the criminal to maintain himself by honest work, but also, without exception, deeper psychological defects. In this connection, I mean by weakness a general unfitness or incapacity for satisfying the demands which life imposes upon one and all, irrespective of social environment and other external conditions. I hope in the course of the following exposition to be able to make quite clear both the import of this conception and its foundations. Its value as a theory or as a working hypothesis must, of course, be judged by the evidence submitted. But it should be emphasized at this point that the weakness or unfitness premised in this conception is by no means always the deepest psychic reality in each individual criminal, simply because it is the deepest common to them all. On the contrary, it is quite often possible to discover the origin of the general unfitness in peculiar individual psychic defects. It should perhaps also be remembered that the weakness in question may naturally always be traceable to some physical defect of an organic or functional character, which is of course in turn obviously a matter for medical science rather than for criminal psychology to investigate.